Right, that should be working. We will. Well, I'll be with you shortly. Just to know a few things. But in the meantime, the stream's going to be about creating a interior in the most optimized way for games such as FiveM, but not solely FiveM. So we're going to get that underway shortly. But I am just dealing with a few little background things, and then I will get down to it. There's another things that I'll probably end up covering during the design phase of this MLO interior, from optimizing your triangles and how to reduce the strain on your VRAM, or more importantly, people's VRAM. So, a triangle, for those that don't know, is an area of a building or an object that is rendered. The more triangles you have, the more strain it causes on your GPU. So poorly optimized things equal poor performance. Self-explanatory. None of you are stupid. You all know that. I will show you what I mean by triangles and what I mean by reducing the numbers. And at a later date, I may then go into LODs, which is level of detail, which is the system that is used in the likes of FiveM. Now, there is other systems other than the LODs, but they are not in FiveM. So I cannot really massively cover them. But Unreal Engine has a tool called Nanite, which basically makes everything really small and renders literally what's in your scene, what you see before you, which is slightly better than LODs. That's the simplest term. LODs, the closer you get, it renders everything regardless. Unreal's Nanite doesn't. It just renders what's going to be in your camera shot. So what I'm doing is just setting up some boring stuff, tags. I tried doing it before the stream, but unfortunately things just been stupid. I've done a few. Let's change that up. Right. We should be good. So I will open up Blender. I've already opened it. Excuse the pink because I don't have the textures. I can get the textures, but I'm not going to because it's not the purpose of what I'm planning to do. The first and foremost, I will talk about what I mean by triangles and optimizing objects and how GTA is not always as optimized as perhaps it should be, which is the reason certain areas you'll experience huge lag, or you may experience texture loss and stuff like that, and that's because it's not optimized as much. Because what you got to remember is GTA is an old game. It's not new compared to that of GTA 6 whenever it comes out, if it ever comes out this year, that is. So I'm going to throw this in edit view. There is a quicker way of doing that. You can do tab. But essentially, your GPU would render that little square or triangle in this particular case there and there. And the fewer of those you've got, the less trouble the GPU has, and it improves performance. And this is a prime example here. They could simply fix this by just dissolving that line there, or that edge, dissolving that edge, and just doing a edge from there to that corner there that you can't see, but it will be there. It's there, look. And that would mean instead of your GPU rendering 4, it's just rendering 2. Which proves my point that some of these assets aren't necessarily as optimized as they could be. Furthermore, this bit down here is the modeler will have used that probably as a guide for the doors and stuff, and then just left it in. It could also be they use it for printing dirt at the bottom of the textures. So sometimes it's needed, sometimes it isn't. So if we go into CodeWalker, I will open CodeWalker up and probably have to fire it over to the other screen. Give me a moment. I'll wait for it to start up first. Which it will start up sometime today. you'll see the reason there's a slight texture difference, and they've done that barrier. So you look there, and then look on this issue over here, yeah, which is roughly the same place as what it is on CodeWalker. As you can see, that's the, yeah, so that's the reason that bit's there, so you can put that effect at the bottom. Now if I was to remove that, you'd probably lose that little bit of grime at the bottom. So sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it don't. And if I was to make that one there, which it is already, you wouldn't notice any difference. Now over here, I believe it's there, isn't it? Let me just check. Ooh, let's not move that. Let's move that. I think it's that one I'm looking at there. So that is actually there. Visually, you wouldn't know it's indifferent. But if I was to straight up, like, just remove... I need to get rid of this extra screen. There we go. If I was to straight up remove this, and that, and that, and then by shifting, select that one too, and then join it up. Oh, I selected the wrong vector. Let's try that again. Vertices. It won't work. Just see it. And that's because some of these will also cause problems. So when you optimize, the reason they've done it that way up to there is because of this here would cause a problem. But the truth is, do we really need that and that? No. So you could still create the same dirt effect across the bottom without having this. But the issue is these two are probably separate panels. Not that I can see it as separate panels, I might add. But in this particular model, let me test that theory. Obviously, I don't know because this, no, they are actually joined. That's good. This is not my model, I might add. It's straight from GTA, so I'm showing my theory whilst examining this at the same time. See that? Some of my issue there. See, now we got a texture stretch there. That is essentially you'd have to re-UV map it. So UV is basically try and show you. I don't know how good it's going to be on this particular object. UV is, that's all your fascias of an object, this particular object, and as you can see, it's a lot. I'll bore you to death with getting rid of that one, and I will bring in this one. It's a damn sight a lot simpler and easier. Now, the other thing to note when it comes to modeling is GPUs nowadays can model squares as well as triangles, which is the reason we've got squares here instead of triangles, and then it will create the triangles for you automatically on export, generally speaking. So the UV map for this is different in that I look at this, for example, I'll select these, I'm going to UV, that's all the fascias, but if I just click one of them, you'll see they are all indeed there. Now, why you UV wrap is it will tell your GPU where each of the vectors are. So your vectors are the corners, all these little points, and then it will measure where the textures are meant to go. Then your textures, you use that UV map to put your textures on. So I will put this in texture modeling view for the moment. So I can delete textures there, and as you can see, it's going transparent. It's breaking it. Okay. Now let me just Control Z that, undo it. Now, the other thing about textures is you'll notice that there's a line here, and that's because it is right there. And that's the reason why we're getting that line in the UV. Now I need the cursor to not be in paint mode. I need it to be there. So, what feature is it I've got selected? Is it that one? If I grab that, bring it back, I can't remember what feature I had selected there. I think it was this one. Yeah, you'll see the lines gone. Now, here you can optimize even further, but I made this really simple. Just to show you that the basics of the UV and how it works. The other thing is a UV doesn't have to just be one texture. If you want to optimize your textures even further, then you can do something like what I've done here. So this texture, when I unselect the other one, you can see I've got two textures in one. Now I can have as many little portions in, and then just put the UV in that area. So let me take, for example, this bit of woodwork here, your baseboard or skirting, whatever you like to call it. I can just go, I don't want that one, I want that one, and just move it over. But then, obviously, it's going to look odd because now that one over there is different. Let me get myself in the corner. Let's see how different it actually is. Yeah. So here, these textures here are not UV unwrapped correctly, which is the reason it looks, it's not UV unwrapped, and it's also rotated wrong, which is the reason it looks dodgy. We drag that over, we'll actually fix it because I was actually incorrect. It wasn't rotated wrong. It must be on the other side. I've done that wrong. Okay. Well, as you can see, I can change it and then make it look consistent. Let's say. Now, when you're creating your textures for your MLOs, you want to try and get as many different components or different textures onto one texture, if that makes sense. Let me see if I can find an example, which I probably almost certainly can, of one done by Rockstar themselves, which I'll have one. I just need to find it. Bear with me a moment. No, that's not a good example. Ooh, that's not a bad example. So I don't know where this is. It looks like the parking somewhere. But you'll see they put multiple textures on one long sheet. The reason you want to do that is it reduces the size of the space on your server and the amount of textures that are loaded into your RAM, and optimizing it further. So try and put as much as you can into one image and then make that work, particularly for things like signage, and that just proves the theory there. That's a GTA thing. GTA's, when it comes to texturing, they've done reasonably well, I'd say. But when they've come to modeling, some of their modeling definitely has way too many vertices and way too many faces to render in. But anyway, I digress from my intent of this video. So let me hide that. Let me bring that back. Let's go back to that. I am going to zero this object. Take the rotation off if I can. Why am I still in edit view? Have I got it? I have. It's probably about -20. Do I want -20 or shall I go other way? Yeah, it is about -20. I'm not going to apply that transform because I've just done it to make life a little easier. When it comes to modeling here, there's several different approaches to how to do it. So some people will suggest using a plane and then building it up that way. Others will use a cube, which is the method I'm going to use in this particular instance. But it's entirely up to you, really, how you do it. Now, I did alter the angle deliberately. That way, it made it easier for me to build the building out, essentially. There's several shortcut keys you can use to make life a lot easier. For you, but I am going to use my mouse. So I'm going to press tab. I say I'm going to use my mouse, but I'm not. I'm pressing tab now, so that goes straight against what I just said. Then I'm going to press G. And I would then match it to that, which I'm not going to do right now because I seem to be dragging the entire object. Oh, there we go, fixed it. Now, where should we snap it to? Let's snap it to there, I think. That'll be good. So what I'm doing here, actually no, I'm not going to snap it to there, I'm going to snap it to there. I'm going to slowly start to build the interior out for this building. I'll go a little bit above the door. This one I'm going to take massively past the frame because I intend to bend it around this corner anyway. What about there? Now, some other important factors that I'll cover shortly about reason your buildings might be invisible in the game, or indeed in CodeWalker. It's a common mistake, particularly early on. And I'm going to show you how to fix it. But first, I am going to now divide my texture, my box. It's not really a box anymore, is it? It's no longer a cube. I'll select that fascia there, and it lets me. Oh, I've still got bloody cutting tool on. There you go, that's my bad. And I'm going to press E to extrude, and it will bring it out to where I want it. Right. The next thing I need to do is press Shift and select all those and make sure. Press G and Z. Z will move it on the vertical axis. And now I need to move this one, which is going to cause problems here, but It's a problem I can put up with for the time being, so I can fix it later. It is y-axis. Pivot. Let me select that edge there. Grab it. Go for the y-axis. Pressing G to grab, and then pressing Y for the axis. Right, so there is the basic shell. At the beginning of the design, it's roughly got like, it's got the height I want, it's got everything I need. So I'm going to probably raise it up a little bit more, and I'll begin to subdivide it into more rooms. I am going to lift it up a little bit. And I'm going to now hide the base, because it's now useless to me. I'm going to bring that back, because I'm going to use that shortly. That's this bit here. It's a little bit of skirting board, or baseboard, whatever you want to call it. That's first and foremost. If I weren't going to divide this into rooms, which I am going to for the time being, I'm going to show you I can fix some level of optimization here straight away by dissolving that edge there, but that would render the object really difficult to render in game, so you'd then have to create a new edge. And there's a new edge straight away. Now this edge here does the render too, but we don't need that. So again, that'd be another edge that you would dissolve or get rid of. Same here, same here. And I'm doing this really simple, just to show you. Show you really quickly, or as quick as possible, for me anyway. Depends how much level of detail you want. Let me just bring up. Now you'll see that that number's going up. And really you want that number as low as possible. Whilst maintaining the detail that you want in this particular object. But I'm going to undo that last one, and you'll find out why in a minute. These here, predominantly, should be good. Those ones I don't want. Now, here's where it gets interesting. So, essentially, every vector should have it divided like that. And that. That's because if you've got, particularly if you've got an older GPU, they can only render in essential triangles. But nowadays you can use squares. Many of the developers will stick to the sort of triangle format because not everyone's got a brand new 5090 GPU or 4090 or, dare I say it, 3090. And to be fair, 3090 is still reasonable, I suppose. Me being very nice to it there, but there we go. So they will say, probably do what I've done there, which is the reason FiveM in the, or one of the reasons why in the base thing they've done it here, mainly triangles. Now why they divided it in half, I don't know. And without looking at the asset in some sort of keen detail, I can't see any reason why they've done it, other than when the dev or the modeler created the runes, let's say, they sliced it, so they basically cut it to create the different shops, and then they just left it there. Now, for argument's sake, is there a benefit to that in-game, leaving it there? No. But here's the thing, if somebody like myself comes along and says, do you know what, I'm going to take this building and I'm going to put an interior into it, the brilliant thing with having that centre line is they've done it for you. The downside is when it's in game, obviously your GPU's got more maths to do, more calculations to do, because there's more vector points, more triangles, and blah blah blah. So leaving it in can be argued as to beneficial or not, but ultimately it comes down to your game, and ultimately the answer's no. It's if you can reduce it, bloody reduce it. Simple as. But for me to reduce this asset, I would have to remap it, re-UV map it, because in doing so, you would create texture stretching and all that sort of shiny stuff like this. That's because I've had to create that fascia, because for some stupid reason, when I merged it, it deleted the fascia that was originally there. Now there's other ways I could approach that might solve the problem. Might being the optimal word, and I'm going to attempt it now. I don't think it will though, in all fairness. It has to a point. It's done a little bit of improvement. It's no longer like blurrily stretched. It's still stretched, but it's a little bit more matching to that. So essentially I'd have to take that texture there and re-UV map it. In this particular case, it'd just be literally re-unwrapping it, and I'm just use that for the time being. It's not the best way of doing it, but yeah, that. Then it already looks better. But I have to do that for the entire object, or the entire how shall I put this? The entire of that fascias with that particular texture on. Depending on how you're texturing. But as you can see, it's also now rotated wrong. There's a lot that I'd have to change. You can see the fade and the effect on the texture that they've used there. Obviously the texture is actually missing itself because I've not imported it. Let's see if I can. I don't think I can because I don't think I've got it. Let me have a look. If you experience this sort of problem where the textures are pink, you can get those textures back. Well, I am going to find this object, which might take me, in fact I don't need to find it because the name of it's there. I'm now going to go to RPF Explorer, which is another CodeWalker thing. Excuse me. And you'll see that's the model, their model. And you can save all of the textures. I'm just going to create a folder. Let's call it that. Oh, great. That'll do. And object view. Press V, which just the V function will only work if you have the tool that allows you to do that, which is a tool you do need if you're using Blender to create MLOs for FiveM, and it's right there. Where did I save it to? Can't remember. There. Find the missing textures. No. Okay. So to reiterate, I will demonstrate how I've done that by randomly selecting a building in here. Let me just take this chat out. Minimize that. So what was that? And we will go for a slightly different building, but not one that's enormous or insanely difficult to actually take and grab. We'll go with that one there, I think. No, it's not got massive amount of textures on it, has it? Just pick one already. Yeah, you got a point. You got a point. But this one is. Right, okay. This is going to be a pain in the arse. If I get it right first time, then that'll be a miracle. But oh, I got it right first time. Happy bloody days. That's a miracle. Normally, these models will have, a prime example actually is the very one I'm working on. So this one here, it will have like several different things on it. Again, I did it perfectly again, amazingly. I won't be able to do that every time, but it's probably because I'm showing you. It basically has like another texture map that goes over the top of the building, which contains the dirt and the slime and all that palaver. So you grab that. To say we want to work on this building here, you want to get the entity's name, which is that. You then copy that into the RPF. Let's get rid of that, don't need you. Explorer, which is this, which is CodeWalker. Obviously, if you want to know how to get these programs, just ping me a comment in on YouTube, or alternatively ask me in the chat here. But obviously, that's not going to happen because most of this is for YouTube. And then there, and it's opened on other screen, is the object. And then in this particular instance, we want to work on that building. You would just export it as an XML, which I'll do just for demonstration purposes. Then you go back to Blender. I will hide that. Hide that. And hide that for the moment. Go to the Solomon's tool, and then you would import the new XML file, if I can find where it is. Oh, I need to go back up again. There it is. And again, you're going to see textures missing. That almost always happens. Almost. Now, this did download some of it, but not all of it. So it's mostly like the decals and the dressing it up. Oh, that's a good example of, I was talking about UVs earlier. That one there is a good example of what I was talking about. So I'll find that. Just give me one moment. It won't take me long because I know exactly where it is. So that's the good thing. Say it won't take me long. Then I realise I've got a million clicks to do to get to it. Which one was it I was looking at? Well, you know, now I actually use that as an example. That's a good example too. As is this one. Well, these are good examples of having multiple parts of the texture on one texture sheet. Anyhow, I digress again. So if you're missing textures like that, like you've just seen, the solution is to go back into the RPF Explorer, double click on it, and then you'll see a little double arrow, click on that, and then go to materials, and then just save all textures. Then you'll get all your materials. Simple as. I will again just do it for demonstration purposes. Done. Close that because I don't want it. Close that because I don't want you either. Select the folder that they're in, and then just find the missing materials. Done. And that, if you're always ready to start modeling on it, there we go. You've got all the textures to make it look like things. And you can turn these little like visual things off. That's fine. I can't remember what they call them, but you can turn them off. So it's like extras. It could also be couple of things. It can be light, so you'll get light colour. There's lights and stuff. Put up a screen, like a bubble showing where it affects, essentially. For the time being, let's delete that. Let's get back to this. And I'm going to bring the building back up because we want to put in the doorways, the window, places for the windows. So let's square that away. And I'll do that now. Just tap to switch to that now. And then we'll begin to cut the object. Now, this will create really annoying lines everywhere. But don't worry about it. Let's see if we can fix them later. Now, straight off the bat, we can delete that fascia and that fascia because we don't need them. So we're starting to get looking into the interior already. And it looks really small, doesn't it? But rest assured, in game it will be not as small looking as it does here. Now I'm hoping that, you know, some of you find this interesting. And if you want me to do more in the future, just drop me a comment in the chat on YouTube video. I will obviously go into further depth if needed, and I will endeavour to answer any questions you may have. If I cannot answer them straight off the bat, I'll come back to you. Just because when you put on the spot, sometimes you just simply can't. Yeah, I'll probably know the answer, but I'll be blank to it because for whatever reason it's just not coming up in my head at the time. Which does happen. It happens to us all, and we all experience that. If you say you don't, you're chatting waffle. Oh, bombs! I wasn't meant to do that. That's because I've got an extra key on my extra keys on my keyboard, and I kind of forget about them. Now, we want to build the door frames and the window frames and all the stuff around that. But there's two approaches to this. One approach is you could start to extrude these edges like so by pressing E and then extruding them out a little bit and then building it like that. No, that's not a really brilliant extrude, I'm not gonna lie. I just did it really quick. I'll undo that because that was stupid of me, really. Do it extrude Y. There we go. You could build it out like this, which is the reason I set the angle to reduce that 20% to make it easier to extrude edges, knowing from experience that extruding at an angle is a pain in the arse. Like, seriously, it's annoying as hell. Like I say, you can build it that way and just keep going until you've got your entire frame built. That's option number one, which in some ways is easier than option number 2, but in some ways option number 2 is easier too. So I contradict myself, and you'll see why. So option number 2 is to literally add another object, add another cube, find that cube wherever it might be, edit the cube to the sort of dimensions you want for the framing, for example. So I am going to reduce that to... In fact, there's 3 ways you can do this, actually. I'll show you the 3rd way too. And probably the quickest in most regards. Then we'll go select this edge. We'll take it roughly to where we want it. And then you go into object mode. Realize that that is part of the same object, so I can't... Give me a minute, let me fix what I've done wrong here. Basically, it became part of the other mesh, which ultimately is what you end up doing anyway, but this is one of the reasons I tend to not like to do it this way. If you do this, though, you're going to learn how to fix this problem. Which is handy. Have I selected that face, or is that not selected? I think I've got them all. I think. Separate. Selected. Which I have. Good. Right. Select that object. Let's tell me I've got it right. Yeah. Excuse that. It's because I'd have to revector it. So I've separated the object because I added it, and it basically added it to that building there. So you then line it up and build it out. I will show you how to fix this problem in a minute as well. To fix that problem, it's fairly simple. I'll show you with the cursor method. You just center geometry to that and then go that way. There is another way of doing it. You can also center the center to the geometry, or you can center the geometry to that. That approach is either or. You can go whatever way you want. It makes no damn difference. And then just start building it out like so. This way will work. Oh, my bad. I buggered that up. And then just like to go like that, and then extrude it. Rinse and repeat until you get what you want. Now here you will notice extruding is not going to work quite how you want. So, because it takes it based on the angle, and build it out all the way around. That's another option. Now there's another way you can do this, and I'll demonstrate on this window over here. And that is, let me just deselect that, put the object in, and I'm going to go with a cube again. I'm going to place it with this here. You just press full stop, that will jump to the object. I'm going to do minor little edits to it to get the frame roughly how big I want it. Go with that. And then I'm going to, with the snapping on, snap it to an edge. Again, same here. snap to an edge. Now this way is by far the fastest way of doing it. It is not the way I tend to do it. I'm not going to lie. I don't tend to do it this way. Where is that music coming from? I don't know why that started music coming out of nowhere. It's not the way I tend to do it, in all fairness. Which I probably should. Should do it this way, because it is way quicker. You line it up where you want it, job done. But now you want to put your doors, your windows, all that stuff in, yeah? Okay, cool, let's do this. Right, let's put another object in. We're going to go with a cube. We're going to bring the cube over to where I want it. Snap it that way. Snap it to that corner there. I'm going to bring it in a little bit because we don't want that there. I'll bring it up a little bit. What we're going to do is use this object as essentially the cutter. So it will cut out of the other material, the other object, an area that I want cutting, or whatever that area may be. Now what I'm going to do to make this even easier too is I am going to select this object and I am going to cut it in half. In fact, I might cut it in three. Yeah, we'll cut it in three. So now it's got 3 equal cuts in it. And I'm going to use that. Again, this is going to bring down to the statement earlier what I said about a modeler might use things like cuts and then just leave them in. Well, this is a prime example of that scenario, which is exactly what happens there. So I'm going to tab out of that, go into this object. And attempt to actually make that. Oh, I'm on the wrong thing, that's why. I annoy myself with my own errors sometimes, don't I? Now, it will snap to, even though you can't see the lines, it will snap to the other lines. The downside to it is, because I can't see the other lines, I can't like judge where I'm leaving equal spacing. But it's not detrimental for this. Right, now I'm going to use a modifier, and it's going to be an generator array. Now what this will do is, let me make sure it's the y-axis I want them on, is it will generate them for me. On the y-axis. That needs to be a 0. Like so. And it'll be roughly equally spaced, but roughly. Obviously, I am just quickly doing this, and you would want the frame to definitely be a lot narrower than that. So you'd have to make this box bigger and then array it. But for the purpose of demonstration, it will do the job. Then apply it. It will then make that on object, which is easier for later. Then you select the first one that you're trying to do. And on that one, when I could find which one it is, I probably could have named these. There we go, it's that one. You add a number modifier. And this one, you're going to use a Boolean. And then you're going to select that there. And simply put, you apply it, hide it. And let's do that right. Hide it. And as you can see, it's put the holes in it for you. But the key but here is it is substantially quicker, and it is really, but you are then, but it's actually, you can see it will optimize it to a certain extent for you, but you can then, we know that that edge is too, that one's like not big enough, and that one's, you know your windows are off now. You can either undo it and then make sure your Boolean is got the right object size, so when it does it equally. Or you can just edit it now. So I've cut it out, it's roughly what I want, and then I start like selecting the fascias and, you know, tweaking it out. But then you're gonna end up with all different size windows and etc. Again, that's your discretion, that's your choice. How you approach that is up to you. Now that's obviously not optimized because this is not got vertices and edges and stuff. So let's say you want to keep this. You are going to now have to begin to optimize. So with these two vectors, you select them both by pressing the shift and then press J, it will join them up. And again, the same would apply there. But the issue is we are creating more triangles. So there's several different approaches on how you could optimize this bit here. I personally don't really have an issue with this method. I think it works. And I think the Boolean method, what I've just done, is way quicker. But the problem is with this method is you've then got to join this object to that object, which isn't a problem in a sense. I say that quite loosely because the issue around it is if this object's if this interior, for example, has got like many segments, you've got to forcefully make these fascias join the fascias on that one. So what is a fascia, you're probably wondering. If you're not, then cool. But if you are wondering, I'm going to answer the question anyway. As the saying goes, there's no such thing as a stupid question. I beg to differ on that one, but there we go. That's a fascia. There you go. Simple as. Fascia, fascia, fascia. That's a fascia. You know, any surface. Done. There you go. Self-explanatory. You'd have to join that, which could mean you deleting fascias and manually like bridging them and rejoining them up. Which is the reason people do things in different ways. I think for uniformity and making it look clean and look more like uniform, the Boolean method is definitely way easier to get what you want quicker. and then focus on like joining it on. The other way is extruding it out that way, or like I said, like I did there, did an object and build it out that way. For me, personally, I tend to go with the building it out, like with a cube and then joining it on, which is just as complicated as that one in a sense that you got to still join it on and play with making the faces join up, and so you don't have little gaps in your MLOs. But that's because I annoyingly forget about this method here using booleans, which is substantially quicker, easier to do. And actually, for the most part, it will optimize for you to an extent. I say an extent, being loosely phrased there, because obviously you can see it hasn't done it there. But it will do it to a certain degree. Another important thing is these shapes here. That there, the reason we slice it is because when I said GPUs can only render squares or triangles, which means essentially you know how many edges it's got, don't you? But unfortunately, if it would have a meltdown at that one, because it certainly don't have 4 edges and it certainly don't have 3. So this one's got 1, 2, 4. In fact, I've got 2, 4, 6, 8. It's got 8 edges. So it won't work, which is the reason you have to slice it. And sometimes you will find models in games that haven't been done properly. Or you'll find models where it's being sliced too much. It's getting that fine line between being excessive and being perfect or being under. So yeah. But for now, I'm probably going to leave it at that because I bored you all to death anyway. If you wanted me to do more along the lines of actually texturing it, and more along the lines of actually building the this particular interior, I will endeavour to continue. But for the time being, I'll probably leave you there. Because I have been going an hour and a bit. So in my next stream, I will begin to apply more detail to this interior. I will also build the frame in and start putting the windows in and texturing it. And go from there. Again, if you have any questions, or even ideas on how individuals can do things, and constructive feedback, and I mean constructive, not like support everyone. Don't bash on them. If you know an answer to a question in the comments, on YouTube, that is, obviously, try and answer them. Be nice, be respectful. It's sad that I need to, tell people to be nice and be respectful. I'm not gonna lie, but there we go. That's life, I guess, nowadays. thank you for watching. If you've joined me live on Twitch or Kick. If you didn't know I'm on Twitch and Kick, drop me a follow. It's the same name, Fortis Live or Fortis Live. One or the other, depending on the platform. It's mostly Fortis Lives. But on YouTube it's Fortis Live, not Lives. Either way, drop me a follow, and then if I do any future videos, you might get to see it live instead of the aftermath. And obviously this is fairly new, sort of streaming aspect for me. Whilst I am affiliated and stuff, still fairly new for me to do stuff like this. So dropping me a follow will help. In the meantime, goodbye, and I'll catch you next time.